Keiparo here. The following video is my opinions on Dawntrail immediately after I finish the MSQ. If you're interested, my full playthrough of the entire story is up under my lives tab. And fair warning, there will be story spoilers in this video, so don't watch it if you're still playing and you don't want to be spoiled. Okay? Okay. With that, I leave you to pass, Paul. Okay, bye! So, thoughts of the expansion. Might as well do that before we end off. The graphics, I think, look great. There's actually color now. Not everything's perfect. Like, I have noticed there are still a few, like, textures here and there. I don't think there's any actually on this outfit. But I have seen them on, like, a few of the other outfits and whatnot, where they're still kind of pixely. But for the most part, like, this is all a lot better than it was. The hair is a lot better. You actually have the strands, right? And then, like, there's actual color to things around the world. And even on my character. Like, my character's skin before the... Everything looked like it was covered in mud before the graphics update. And, like, my character's skin was largely gray half the time, unless the lighting was, like, really good. But for most of the world, it just did not look good. So, I do like the graphics update. The dungeons, I think, are awesome. I don't think there was any dungeon that I thought was lame. Maybe the one where you start on the boat. Just because I've never been a fan of those ones where, like, you start on the boat, or the snowplow, or the whatever else, and you're just, like, standing on this ship as it moves you along. Like, those ones have always been kind of sleeper to me. But it does get better when you get off of the boat. Later on, the later on ones are really good. The trial is really good. I especially liked the last trial. I thought the mechanics in that were, like, really cool. So those were good. The story was a little weird. I could say a lot about the story. To start off, it was pretty sleeper at the beginning, right? Like, understandable, I guess, because they're trying to slowly build us. Like, this is basically the ARR of Dawntrail, right? Or of ARR of Dawntrail, the ARR of the new story. This is the first expansion after everything from the last story got wrapped up in Endwalker, and now they have to lay the foundation, new characters, new worlds, the little seeds of the new problem, right? Like, in ARR we had what? We had, like, the first Ascian, like, appearance, basically. And they were just kind of there, this mysterious enemy that was just storing up these little problems. And that's all we had, right? Did we even... No, we did know that they were behind the Guardians, too. So they were storing up problems, and they were, like, manipulating, like, Gaius and the other Guardians to cause shit. That's all we had. And it was that little seed at the beginning from that completely unrelated, like, well, not completely unrelated, but that comparably minor conflict with Gaius in ARR. That was, like, the start of what led up to, like, going into space and saving the world and learning about the Ascians and the Sundering and all that stuff. But you have to have that little bit of groundwork at the beginning, and then you kind of build up into it. And this expansion is like that for a new story. So at the moment, it's kind of hard to say, like, where it's going in general. But I think, obviously, the seeds for this is the ability to connect the shards, right? The reflections with that key that we have, and then the scions are going to be, like, studying and whatnot. And I think we're going to be using that to... Maybe it'll come back with Zero, something to do with saving the 13th, right? Maybe it'll come to connecting the source and the first so that, like, Veen can, like, see everyone again. You know, that kind of thing. So, we'll see where it goes. It's understandable that it's pretty tame because it's the beginning, but I'm still gonna point out what it is, right? As far as the story for this expansion, right? Like, this story's, like, this expansion's encapsulated story. The setup is very basic. It's like, oh, you're just helping the underdog sibling who's not as strong as this sibling and not as smart as this sibling, but they're the one who's gonna learn to overcome the weakness and be the best for the throne. Like, it's a very played out trope. That's kind of a negative for me. And on the talk of them, on the talk of the characters, I do like a lot of them. But yeah, there are either they've been like extremely predictable for the most part, or just completely off the rails. Like from the get-go, I knew that Wicklamat was gonna be. I didn't know if she was going to like become the leader or pass it on to Kona, or you know, like they ended up doing, sharing the responsibility. But I did know from the get-go that Wicklamat would get up her confidence and overcome her weaknesses and become a leader who, you know, rules with some sort of like understanding and the power of friendship. And it's, you know, that's exactly what happened. I knew Kona was going to soften up and learn that you can't just innovate at the cost of what's going to make people happy, right? That was another obvious thing. But then on the other hand, you have characters like Zorolja, who he, from start to finish, was just completely incomprehensible to me. Like maybe it would have made more sense if he came out the gate like, this is my birthright, and I think we'll prosper if we expand and unite everyone Gorlian style, right? But he just started out being like, I'm supposed to be the ruler, and I want to go to war so that people will want to unite, wanting peace, that they wouldn't get because they'd be stuck at war. And then like, Tyrell basically has peace under Wicklamat, and he's like, just mad he didn't win, so he just goes like kind of off the deep end, but not really because he was already crazy. And now he just acts basically the same, except he's more desperate and has more power. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm dumb, but I never understood this character at all. If I'm supposed to like hate him or feel bad for him, like I don't, he just confuses me. Like Bakur Jaja was a more effective character to me, because like, I did hate him for a while. Like, because he had motivations that made sense, even if they were like bad motivations, right? Like, obviously it's not good to want your race to be above others and subjugate the other races, essentially. But he had motivations that made sense, right? He was doing this for his people, and he thought other races were inferior or whatever. That's, you know, how he was raised. And he was just a complete asshole about it, which makes you hate him. But it also gives you a sense of you understand why he's doing the things he does. For the most part, again, there were times that it didn't entirely work because it was like, okay, this was a trial you could have just done if you did it, but you just cheated out the gate, which is weird. I thought it would have made more sense if he tried, failed, and then cheated. But he was just jumping to cheating, but that's besides the point. For the most part, at least, him being an ass made sense and made me not like him. Whereas Zorolja, I didn't get him, so I didn't... He was just a nuisance, really. He was like a weird nuisance that was like, I don't know why you want to do this, I don't know why you're doing the thing you're doing. Get off my screen. Oh, you died? Okay, cool. And I can move on to something else. Sveen... Sveen was a bit better, because again, she had that motivation, right? It was a little weird in the sense of like, why can't you just let this go? But I think Katra kind of pointed that out in that, like, she literally can't because she was made for this purpose. Like, it's in her programming, basically. She's not an actual human who can change her mind, right? She's just the memories of a human that was brought back with a purpose to protect the Endless. So no matter what you want to do, no matter what she wants to do, she's going to try to protect the Endless, and she can't change that. So it's like, okay, fair enough. She did just annoy me though when she was actually trying to not fight us, like when she was trying to help us for certain points, and she just was useless because she couldn't overrule Zorolja on anything. And it's just like, why are you even here? I don't know, maybe that was her ploy. Maybe she was just never trying to help us. But I don't know. At least her motivation and everything made more sense. I really just didn't like Zorolja. Papa was fantastic though. I would say nothing bad about him. But his death flags, like after he finished his whole thing with the Rite of Ascension, passing on the throne and whatnot, it's like you could see his death flags across the entire continent. It was very predictable, but I very much like the character. So still kind of sad. Oh, one other thing that I noticed, right? This is probably a nitpick. I don't know. But it bothered me at the time. But cool Jaja, he was able to abduct Wooklamat's bio dad, right? To like get him to fight her and try to get all their keystones. But he's an elector. So I thought you were not allowed to harm an elector without getting immediately disqualified. So how was he able to forcefully kidnap him or threaten to kill him? Right? I don't... Was there some unspoken rule about like, well, once that elector's done judging, even if the contest is still on, now you can kill him if you want to? Like... that seemed a little inconsistent to me, unless that's the case. And if that's the case, then nobody ever specified that. They just skipped ahead to, well, he kidnapped him now, and he's allowed to do that, I guess. Wooklamat and Kona, even though they were like predictable character arcs, I did like the relationship between them, the sibling relationship. I thought it was very sweet. And it was also nice that like, it was obvious, but it was still nice that they can make up with like what the other person's lacking. Like they work well together. It made me happy when they were there, like having each other's backs on the screen. And as long as it makes me happy, I will respect it, even if it's not super deep. As far as the Warrior of Light goes, that's another thing. It feels like Square kind of wrote themselves into a corner a bit. And I don't mean this is too harsh criticism, because I don't even know how you would go about not doing this after completing a story like Endwalker. But canonically, the Warrior of Light is so absurdly strong that they had to make them sit out so much of the story that it was kind of grating. Otherwise, none of the like earlier on bad guys would have felt threatening. Or they needed, in case of like Zorolja, they needed time to power up to get threatening. And then the other characters wouldn't have been able to have as effective character arcs, right? So like Bakur Jaja was a joke the entire time to the Warrior of Light, but the Warrior of Light could never actually fight him. Like he was always getting sidelined. And sometimes there was one time I could think of what was okay, right? When he took the hostage, and then Wooklamat like convinces us like, I got this, I can do it, trust in me. Like for her character arc, it's like, okay, that felt natural, right? Like never in the history of ever, without a solid rescue plan, has the Warrior of Light ignored a hostage. Right? That's unreasonable for them to stop for that. And then, like, believing in Wooklamat, letting her have that moment, like, it felt earned enough that that was okay. But for the most part, like, most of these times, it was just like, no, for some arbitrary reason, I will fight them alone. Even though my whole, like, shtick is that I rely on the help of other people. I'm team friendship. But then they just don't do that. It was weird. I don't know why they did that. So, I mean, I know why they did that. They did that because they didn't want the Warrior of Light to just overpower him and make it completely pointless. But it just felt so forced that it was annoying. And this happened so much in the story, where it was just like, for some arbitrary reason, no, you can't fight this. These other characters have to fight this. You have to sit this out. And it was irritating. Even though I understand why they had to do that, it was irritating. The story got a lot better later on. It pissed me off a little with the earring, as you guys would have heard. The fact that it took so long to reveal what was on this earring, I'm sure it didn't take that long to decipher, but they just didn't reveal it forever. And then when they finally did, it was like, oh yeah, it was a code to operate a machine. Like, you could have just said that earlier on, right? Like, even just some brief little thing about, like, it's some sort of code, but we're not sure what it does yet, right? Like, anything. But instead it was like, would you like me to scan your earring? And then like we go through like 2 levels of quests before the earring ever comes up again. It's like, how long does it take to see what's on this earring? Like it's a drive that fits into an earring. Surely it is not that complex to scan. Am I crazy here? It was annoying. I'm getting way too like caught up on this, but it's just there's a lot of little points like that where they just hold on to information, like people don't talk to each other or have conversations with each other, and they just create problems that don't need to be problems, or they hold on to like little tiny bits of information just so they can pull it out right at the exact perfect moment, like, haha, I know the answer to this. And it's like, sometimes it's good, but there's a lot of times where that's completely unnecessary, and it's like, you could just say what the hell you have, or what the hell you know. Or just talk to this person to save us a headache down the line. I don't know. That bothered me a lot too. The story did get better near the end though, in general, even though the evening was near the end, but that's the only reason I remember that particular one better than the other ones, is because it was closer, it was more recent. But just as a whole, like problems and all, the whole content of the story does improve near the end, like a lot. I was not expecting to bring like other reflections into this, like just immediately. I guess now they can, even though this is like an intro expansion, because, you know, we've gone past Endwalker, we know what those are and everything. But yeah, that came out of left field for me. But I'm glad for it. I'm glad for it. I actually enjoyed going into the other, like, into like this pseudo Asian looking like memory world. Like, I thought that was really cool. The reunions with like the dead characters and stuff, even if it was just memories, like that actually that was actually making me tear up, man. I'm too much of a wuss. But no, that was good. I really like that new city. I keep forgetting the name of it though. Solution 9. Very, very cool city. I don't know if they'd ever put housing there. I hope they would. I don't think they would though. I think they only do that in main cities, right? They haven't added housing in a while. Well, no. Wait, yeah, Ishgard was the main city. Idosha was. Damn it! So if any house ever does get, or if any city ever does get housing, it's probably gonna be Tuliolo. I want a house. I want a house in Solution 9. Damn it! I want a cyberpunk house. Ah, well. Tragic. The setup, or the ending was pretty good, I think. It makes sense to me, right? Like, you have obviously the people from Alexandria are not going to just immediately mesh, but, you know, it's fair that Wilklemat would take them in and be like, you know, look, I'll help look out for you guys. I'll take care of, you know, your king until he's old enough to decide for himself what he wants to do, blah, blah, blah. Like, she's not just gonna leave them high and dry, and they're not gonna be sure about the futures either, right? That's probably something that's gonna get explored later. And then there's a lot of setup between them, and then also with the key, like I was saying earlier, the setup to maybe look into going back to Zero's shard, or to connecting with the First, and making that a more, like, traversable thing. Yeah. So I think it did okay for a first expansion, in the story. We got a dude here. Hi, dude. For a first expansion in the story, I think it did pretty good. But it wasn't perfect. Probably wasn't even one of the... I don't know where I would rank it in the expansions, honestly. I wouldn't rank it super high, to be honest. I'd probably put it... And to be fair, when I say this, I'm only judging story, not throughout expansion content. That's obviously, I can't judge this on that yet because we're not there yet. I don't know what the later story in the expansion is going to be. I don't know how the raids are going to be and whatnot. For me, I would rate it... I'd probably put... maybe I didn't like Stormblood, really, to be honest. I took a break doing Stormblood. I came back and played it after. Didn't really care too much for the story. So I'd probably do ARR, and then Stormblood, and then Dawntrail. And then there'd be like Heaven's Ward and Walker, some above that. Yeah. And yeah, I'm probably around like a 7 out of 10, I guess. Not awful. Not awful. Could be better. I enjoyed it. And I very much like the fights and the graphic update. So those are big positives, because those are things that I'm going to be doing a lot of now that I'm leveling up jobs and doing dailies and all that stuff. So, and, you know, looking at the game. So yeah. That's all for the Dawntrail MSQ. I'll probably end this off here and go get myself something to eat now. Thank you guys for hanging out. Have a lovely night. Bye-bye!